Good evening. Good evening. It's definitely not morning.
Good evening.
So the hour being 7 o'clock on December 28th, 2020, I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. And before we proceed too far, I'd like to read the introduction for electronic meetings. As mayor of the Laconia City Council, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis, and in accordance with Governor Sununu's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen to the meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members have the ability to communicate during this meeting through the Zoom platform, and the public has access to watch the live YouTube video at www.youtube.com/LaconiaNH. Listen to this meeting through dialing the following phone number, 1-646-558-8656, or participate by the Zoom app, webinar ID 859-8660-7595, password 941215. Providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access the meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the City of Laconia's website at www.laconianh.gov. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 527-1265 extension 243 or email at cityclerk@laconianh.gov. And D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting, we will adjourn the meeting and have it rescheduled at that time. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states his presence, also please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. At this time, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney.
I'm home and alone.
Thank you. Counselor Susie.
Home and alone.
Counselor Littman.
Home and alone.
Counselor Haynes.
Here at City Hall and alone.
Counselor Hamel.
Home and alone.
Counselor Felch.
Home and alone.
Thank you.
And the mayor is home and alone.
Yeah. I apologize, Mayor Hosmer.
Oh, it's quite all right. No problem at all. Pardon my voice. I've got some laryngitis going on, I think, and I may be losing it at times here. The voice, that is. So before we go any farther, I'd ask Councilor Cheney to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You're on mute, Bruce.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United
States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
for all.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Councilor Cheney. Also joined this evening is our recording secretary, City Clerk Cheryl Hebert. We're also joined by City Manager Scott Myers, and I believe City Finance Director Glenn Smith is joining us as well. At this point, it looks like the council presentation before we get to the minutes. Is that correct, Scott?
Yes, it is, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so. Excuse me. So this evening, I'm honored to be able to present the 2020 Deborah Bynars Memorial Award. 33 years ago, the Laconia City Council established the Deborah Bynars Memorial Award for outstanding service to children and youth in the Lakes region in memory of police officer Deborah Bynars. Late Officer Bynars served the city in its youth with uncommon devotion, dedication, and distinction during her 9 years with the police department before her death in 1987. Each year, a committee comprised of one city councilor, one member of the police department, and one member of the school board selects an individual to be recognized for this award based on nominations from members of the community. The award honors a member of the community who has enlivened and enriched the lives of young people.
Kathy.
This year's honoree has been a fierce advocate for kids and a pillar of volunteer support at the Boys and Girls Club of the Lakes region for many years. Never seeking the limelight, in fact, often going out of her way to avoid it, her love and concern for the children's well-being is always evident. She devotes her time and resources to ensuring that club kids are happy and healthy. Over the years, it is estimated that she has touched the lives of close to 1,000 Boys and Girls Club kids. Her consistent, reassuring presence is so important for the kids, especially during the time when the Boys and Girls Club of the Lakes region was merging with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Concord. She always makes herself available to assist with events or projects and to orchestrate a craft project or two, and she can be counted on to find a spare coat or a toothbrush when necessary. The club serves about 350 members each year, seeing as many as 150 children at the clubhouse every day before the pandemic. Now the club is offering all-day programming for those learning remotely. The winner of this year's award assists behind the scenes to help free up the club director's time to concentrate on club members. Once referring to herself as Mama Bear when it comes to club kids, our winner is highly resourceful, determined, and connected in the community, always finding a way to make sure the club's kids are met. In recognition of this year's honoree's outstanding commitment to the youth of Laconia, I am extremely proud and pleased to present the 2020 Deborah Bynars Award to Kathy Druin. I'm not sure if Kathy has joined us or not.
We're
If
not seeing anything, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, that's too bad. It would have been an opportunity. I would have given her an opportunity to say a few words if she wished. But tough to see the writing on it. But certainly, it's an impressive award. It says Deborah Bynars Memorial Award presented to Kathy Druin 2020. So. Congrats, Kathy, again. Who was the city council member that served on that committee? Thank you, Councilor Felch, for your work. Moving on to agenda item number 7, which is acceptance of minutes from previous meetings. Minutes of the meeting were distributed to the city, regular meeting minutes of December 14th, 2020. Minutes of the meeting were distributed to the city council on Thursday, December 17th, 2020. They were put together by Cheryl Hebert, the city clerk. With no changes or corrections submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. Moving on to consent and action items. Under number 8A, Wesley Bates, seeking an appointment as an alternate member of the Conservation Commission to a term expiring at the end of August 2023. At the City Council meeting of December 14th, 2020, the council approved ordinance 2020-5-3-B, amending the number of members and alternates on the Conservation Committee. Mr. Bates is currently a regular member of the Conservation Commission. He has volunteered to move from that position to fill one of the 3 newly created alternate positions on the commission. If approved, this will leave the Conservation Commission with the 5 regular members set forth in the ordinance and 2 vacant alternate member terms. I'll be looking for a motion to appoint Wesley Bates as an alternate member of the Conservation Commission to a term expiring at the end of August 2023. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Hamel. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Whitman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Thank you, councilors. Congratulations, Mr. Bates, and thank you for your willingness to continue to serve the city. Moving on to number 9, which is citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. If we have anyone tuning in this evening who wishes to speak about an issue that is not currently on tonight's agenda, now would be the appropriate time.
Mr. Mayor, Charlie St. Clair has raised his hand.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. St. Clair, certainly with heavy heart, you are recognized this evening. And you're on mute.
I know. How's that?
That's better.
Thank you. We had a tough day on Christmas Day, but I just want everybody to know, and especially all of you on the council and the mayor and the city manager. I've spoken to a few people since that day, that we're so fortunate to have the fire department we have, the surrounding departments. They did an incredible job of knocking that fire down. If it had been 15 more minutes or not done as well, the whole building would have been a pile of ash. They saved all the belongings for the people that lived upstairs in that apartment. And it's not, I don't know how to say this, but it's not that they just came and did a great job, but they show such, I don't know, sensitivity, compassion, with what they're doing, because they're, both Jennifer and I were there most of the day. The mayor came up at one point, but again, they just the way they handled everything. It wasn't done with a cold matter of fact, this is our job, we're here to do it. They were just so wonderful. So I just wanted to pass that on to all of you. And I know everybody knows what a great job they do, but I guess I just want to emphasize it. I know some people take the fire department for granted, and I get that. But again, I just wanted to give a call out to that. And and give my extreme thanks to the job they've done or did, and again for all the city government and the supporting services that work around them to perform those services. So that's all. I really appreciate the time to say that. Thank you.
Charlie, and once again, I know you and I have been in regular contact over the week, and I'm very sorry for the loss that you and Jennifer experienced and the association experienced on Christmas Day.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, no other hands are raised.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I appreciate that. Moving on to number 11 on our agenda, which is nominations, appointments, and elections. This is for Marcia Hayward seeking appointment as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to a 3-year term expiring at the end of August 2023. Ms. Hayward is requesting appointment as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. There are currently 5 vacant alternate member positions on the board. Interviews of individuals applying for appointment or reappointment to various boards and commissions were held at the council's December 14th, 2020 meeting. Appointments will be made at this evening's meeting. Ms. Hayward's application was included in the 12/14/2020 agenda packet. Refresh my recollection, Scott, we interviewed, is that correct on that as well?
I believe, Mr. Mayor, she was unable to interview that night and had requested to interview at this meeting instead, which is an off meeting. But I am looking at the participants in our meeting and I do not see her there. So perhaps we should just table this one and try to reschedule her for January.
Okay, would that take a formal motion or just a formal motion and vote, or would this just be tabled?
I just think you could say administratively, since she's not here, we'll table this.
I like the sound of that. Administratively, we'd like to table this appointment or interview of Marcia Hayward. Moving along on our agenda number 14 under presentations, if Audra Tassone-Indek is with us from Timberman, now would be and I see your name just popped up. I think that's great. Audra, if you can hear me, do you need to share a file or anything?
Yes, I do. Just bear with me. I'm going to see if I can get this to work. Hold on 1 second. Share screen. Okay. All right. It seems it's not letting me share. So I can send it out, Mayor, afterwards. I apologize. It was a pretty nice PowerPoint presentation that was put together.
If I could jump in for a second, Mr. Mayor, we weren't sure that there was a presentation coming, so we did not arrange for her to be a panelist, but Glenn is going to promote her up to a panelist. So I don't know how long that takes, but I would say within a minute or so, we ought to have the ability to see Audra's screen share.
Well, if it's a, why don't we wait, since since according to Audra, it's a good presentation. A little bit of patience. We don't have a big agenda this evening, so perhaps we can wait just a few minutes and she can make the presentation. I think what I'd like to do, though, let me just hold on for just a second here. Councilor Felch, yes.
Yes, we did interview Marcia Hayward. It's actually in the minutes.
Yeah, I was just going back to take a look at that.
So we could appoint her tonight.
So if we can take the administrative motion that I just made, I'd like to go backwards in the agenda. So if we could take that administrative motion, rescind it. And I thought we had interviewed her.
Yes.
My apologies. I think Councillor Felch is an apt observer in his recollection. So I don't know where I strayed off the path, but my apologies, Mr. Mayor.
Well, someone did miss someone
there was
had to
some-
push it off. That was Marnie Blaisdell Schultz was
Yeah.
unable last week or last meeting.
Correct.
So Marcia Hayward was interviewed. So right now I'd be looking for a motion. Thank you.
So moved.
Motion moved to
Second.
appoint Marcia Hayward as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to a 3-year term expiring at the end of August 2023. So moved by Councillor Lippman, seconded by Councillor Felch. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Six votes in the affirmative. Marcia Hayward has been appointed. Thank you very much, Marcia, for your willingness to serve the city of Laconia. Thank you, Councillor Felch, for straightening that out for us. So let's move along to number 14, which is presentations, the Timberman event with Audra Tassone Indec. Perhaps we're ready to take a look at your presentation now, if you're ready to go, Audra.
So let me see. When I go to share the screen, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. So, Mayor, did you hear what I said? It still won't allow me to share the screen.
Yes, I'm hoping Glenn Smith
Okay,
and
wait.
Scott Myers
Here we go.
hears that as well. I think they do.
It should
Okay.
be fine now.
Okay, here we go.
Look at that.
All right. So thank you. Thank you for putting me on the agenda for tonight. I'm here because I am requesting about bringing Timberman back. The date we're looking at is August 20th to the 22nd. And I believe many of you have remembered Timberman Triathlon. It was started by Endorphin Sports, who was owned by Keith Jordan. It originally started in 2006, and then it ended in 2016. We took a little bit of a hiatus, and now I'm asking to come back. The goal is to start to swim in Elacoya, bike down to Loudoun, come back and finish in downtown Laconia to really just highlight how beautiful the area is. I'm also asking for use of some of the parking lots and Opeechee Park for the transition area. Ironman is a global company. They put on over 250 events globally. So what Timberman is truly missed, and I've been asked by the COO to come forward to see if this is something that I can make happen for 2021. So this is just a little presentation of what Ironman is all about, when it started, and along with this event, we will also have championship slots where people are able to participate in Kona. What I'm thinking is doing a 2-day event, have females on Saturday and males on Sunday, and throughout the whole weekend, we'll have a festival where we really highlight downtown Laconia. Everything from, we'll have the restaurants get involved. I would like to bring in some fireworks, have a pasta dinner for the athletes, really get people to come and stay for anywhere between 3 and 5 days. With a 70.3 distance, the economic impact is anywhere between $3 and $5 million. And in lieu of everything that's going on in the world, people are really excited and anxious to get back to racing. And Timberman was and still will always be one of the most popular events that was on the circuit. So this is just the average annual household income is $247,000. 68% of the participants are male, 32% are female. The average age is 40, 83% own homes, 92% are educated through a university. go right. Each participant will bring in will do 1.3 race per year, and they will spend an average of 20 hours a week. So what does that mean for us is that they will also come in the area to train throughout the year, rent houses, eat in our restaurants, stay in the hotels. The average spend for an athlete is anywhere from $7,000 to $26,000 per athlete. That includes their equipment, hotel, meals, all the bells and whistles. One of the benefits of hosting, as I said, is the economic impact. It's the heads and beds. And it would be an influx of between anywhere from 7,000 to 8,500 participants, including the athletes that will come into the area. And there will be a percentage of those that will come year round to train on the courses. It's a world-class race. The qualifying slots that I mentioned about the world championship. There's promotional platform to more than 60,000 people that are registered in the Ironman database. So let's see. So a sample weekend would be a Friday. We would have athlete registration. We would have the Ironman Village, and then we would have the Ironman merchandise. Still talking through those logistics. One suggestion Mayor Hosmer had was right over at Opeechee, having it inside the school. Saturday, we would have the women's race. We would have, so what we would end up doing is we would start over at Elacoya. We would swim there, bike down to Loudon, come back, run through Laconia, and then finish over at Opeechee. And that's where we would have awards. And then we would have our festival that night. And then Sunday would be the male race, which would be the same, where they would swim down at Elacoya, go to Loudon, finish up in downtown Laconia. And then we would have the post-race events where I would like to bring it, have like a lobster bake, something along those lines, and just really highlight the area because it's incredibly beautiful. Let's see. This just goes into what we've asked in regards of hosting an event. And a lot of times we've had venues come to us saying that they want us to come into market to help, highlight their area. This is something that, we're still talking through, but the main thing is swim, bike, run, a finish line, and a transition area, which the swim is over at Elacoya. The bike is from Guilford down to Loudon to back. The run, I would like to utilize the WOW Trail also, and then other areas of Laconia. And then the finish line would be in downtown Laconia. And then we push all the athletes to Opeechee Park, and that's where we would have the post-race activities and then highlight something at night. Let's see. We would also, with this, we would also bring in some pros. So we would have, there would be an opportunity where we would have a pro panel. We can do a Q&A, and then we can run, and then we can also get a lot of the local charities involved. And also we would work directly with the Ironman Foundation, which now I am the executive director of as of last week. And with that being said, so there'll be a lot of give back into the community. We can work on a grant, and then also we would have a pretty hefty budget in regards to helping with the volunteerism. There would be a VIP area, there would be athlete recovery area. We would work with the local municipalities in regards to the police, medical support. We would need a supply depot. And still, there's quite a few logistics to work out. This is just a basic summary of what we would require, and I can send this out to all of you so you can see it. And pretty much, so that's basically what I'm asking is if we would be allowed to come back and finish up in your beautiful city.
Audra, thanks very much for your presentation. I'm glad you were able to share it with us. To my fellow council members here, Audra and I have been talking about this for quite some time now. We've had an opportunity to meet and just talk about what bringing the Timberman, Ironman back to this area would mean for this area. I was certainly a fan of it, though I never participated, but I thought the idea of bringing back a very popular event would be a great shot in the arm on a number of levels, certainly raising the profile of our community, certainly the economic impact to our downtown businesses and our surrounding areas here would really be significant. So it would be a great opportunity for our restaurants, our hotels, our motels, our entertainment venues and what have you to participate, to give people an idea of what we've got here. I also thought it was a great idea that instead of having it finish up at Ilocoya State Park, we should really think about having it finish up in downtown Laconia. I think it's a great home stretch, that Main Street section running right by the brand new Colonial Theater, having the finish line at the end of the street. And, I think it's also an opportunity to really think big about what this could look like, and partnering with the Colonial Theater and partnering with local restaurants. I think this could really be an exciting event to bring back here. I realize that there are still an awful lot of details to be worked out, and I think a number of you counselors will have a number of questions, and there's a lot of work still yet to be done. But I think the concept of the idea, the economic impact, the excitement around this, the fact that we can partner with the Ironman Foundation and have some benefit to perhaps the nonprofits in the area, for us to partner to some extent with New Hampshire Motor Speedway, because that'll be the turnaround point from what I understand. This is all things that I think is really exciting for our city. I will say that Audra and I and Scott have met and discussed this a few weeks ago. We then had a follow-up conversation with the Commissioner of Business and Economic Affairs for the state of New Hampshire, Commissioner Taylor Caswell, who is just thrilled with the idea that we might have an opportunity to bring this back, and is looking for ways that the state can leverage its resources to make this as big a success as I think it could be. So really, I think the next step for us is to look at it as a council, to drill down, to raise some questions, get some answers to some concerns or reservations that you may have, we all may have, and then see if it's something we could put together for August. I also think it's probably at the point in time where hopefully, vaccination, the number of people who receive the vaccine will be significantly higher, certainly than it is now. And we can do it with a little better sense of the health issues, the health ramifications of having a gathering of a lot of people here. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to fellow councilors and hear your thoughts, any questions. Councilor Susie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Audra, very much. I think it's a great idea, really do. I'd like to see a copy of that presentation.
Absolutely.
You can give that to us, okay? And there was a couple of slides I was trying to read where some of the requirements you need from the city. I'd like to, as Mr. Mayor said, drill down and look at the cost aspects and where other things might be able to be done. Is there any other Ironman events taking place in the state besides this one?
Not in this state. No, there's one in Maine that is in Old Orchard Beach, and that's essentially where we moved to. That event is sold out. So there's definitely a demand for another event in the area. So not in the state. There's smaller triathlons, but it's not an Ironman branded event with world championships slots, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
I know
you.
there'll be more questions, but that was my.
Oh, absolutely. And again, this presentation with the requirements, that is just a general overview. Like what the mayor and I have spoken about is just, it's kind of like plug and play. What can we do? What can't we do? So it's completely open, but that's just, I'll send that over to the mayor and he can distribute that, or however he wants me to send it.
When do you need to know?
Soon, as soon as possible. The goal is to get, because we're less than a year away, the goal is to get registration open up by February. That way because people are starting to plan their race calendar for 2021. And I know this event will sell out really quickly. So I need to know sooner rather than later.
When you say sell out, how many
When I'm-
spots do you sell?
What I'm looking at, so because it's a 2-day event, it would be 4,000 athletes. So 2,000 on Saturday and 2,000 on Sunday. Now, the other thing too, and we've discussed this also, if that's too impactful for a 2-day event, then we can tailor it just to Sunday, and we can do a combination of male and female. The reason why I was thinking is a 2-day event, because it's very similar to how the World Championship handles their race. So it's incredibly special, and we'll have a lot of pros that would want to participate in this event.
Okay. And the main benefactor is Ironman?
It's Ironman, but we have so Ironman is a for-profit business. So, but we also have obviously a nonprofit side of it. So with all that, we will have a budget for this event. Let's just say hypothetically, it's $20,000 that we give out to the local charities. But on top of that, what I want to do is implement a grant for this event where we can do a special project. You know, maybe, I don't know if the police station needs like not an SUV, I'm sorry, a gator or a new boat or something along those lines. So that's something that we can work through.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Susie. Any other questions? Hey, Councillor Hamel.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks again, Audrey, for coming and presenting this. This sounds exciting. Just a couple questions, since you need to know, fairly soon. But as far as emergency services, police and fire and all that, is that something that the Ironman will pick up the fees for that?
We've done that in a lot of markets, but we've also worked in other markets where it was a 50-50, or part of the host venue agreement was where they would pick up all the fees. But that's something we'd work through. So it's not a done deal if the services aren't picked up. We've gone into a lot of markets where we've paid for everything.
Okay. Yeah. And the other question goes back to what we're having to go through right now is COVID. Yep. So in August, what if not as many people are vaccinated as what the government figures?
Yep.
That how are we going to control that to make it safe for everybody if the vaccination isn't as abundant as what they're saying it might be by that time of the year?
Sure. So Ironman has a protocol now. So I was on the committee to help put together the COVID plans. So what they, in this past year, they've had 2 events. Obviously with COVID, a lot of things, had to be canceled and postponed to the following years. So everybody, all the athletes have to fill out a waiver. They'll get their temperature checked when they get on site. They're also, they would all come in mass groups to pick up their packet. Now you have to sign up for a time. So we limit the number of people that are exposed to one area. And then we also, in all our operations, we have social distancing. So there's X amount of feet in our finish line corral. So everything, and I can send over those plans from a different race. So everything has been thought out in regards to how we would handle social distancing, even down to how we would start our swim start. Usually we would go off in waves of 150 to 250. Now this would be more of a time trial where it's like a slow roll into the water. So 2 or 3 at a time, give it a break and keep going. The great thing about Timberman in this time of year, and I'm just going to sidebar a little bit, it's light very early, so we can get people going pretty early in the morning, like around 6:30. So in that way, it will help with traffic towards the afternoon.
Okay. As this comes closer, is this I hope it would be something that you would get with the state's epidemiologist and the
absolutely,
or whatever. And
we
get opinions from them about all this.
Of course, absolutely. And we've already had very high level conversations about that. Absolutely. And the other thing too is, let's just say we have some concern when we're getting closer to the event, then we would all sit down and talk. And if we, worst case scenario, let's hope that never happens, we have to make the decision and postpone it. then that's what we do. It's all about the safety for the community and the athletes.
Okay, so I'm sure these people will be flying and traveling from all over the United States, maybe the world, I don't know. But,
Yes.
you know, where you have right now hotspots everywhere,
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be a lot less then, but, you know, it's something I think we have to think about.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Okay, and also I have a little bit to do with the Colonial Theater remodel, and
Okay.
I'd love to see this event use our theater maybe for some of the activities.
Sure, absolutely. It's that I would be very open to that. And actually the mayor has also mentioned that in one of our first conversations too. So, I mean, it's beautiful just seeing the pictures online. It's another highlight to this incredible area.
Yeah, it'll be an amazing place, that's for sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Councilor Hamel, just to shed a little light, my conversation with Commissioner Caswell, our next discussion with him is going to be to pull together a similar group, a similar task force type group that the governor had organized for Motorcycle Week. So it had the Department of Public Health, it had Department of Safety, Department of Transportation, you know, folks like that. So all the stakeholders that have assisted us with Motorcycle Week and what we did last year would be the same, essentially the same group of people that would join us for the next discussion that we might have.
Sure.
Councilor Susie.
I have one last question. Audra,
Yes.
if Old Orchard is already sold out and you have 4,000 participants there,
No, and there we have 2,300.
okay, so if there's 2,300 participants, what is the expected crowd size? In other words, how many people would we expect to be coming into the city and Lakes area for this?
Absolutely. So pre-COVID, I could say it would be between probably on an average 6,500 to 7,000 people. Now, because of COVID, that number is definitely scaled down quite a bit. People are not traveling with as many, others. So I would probably say outside of the participants, spectator wise, we're probably looking at between 4,000 and 5,000 people, maybe a little less.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And also, just so everybody knows, I've had conversations with Guilford Police and Belmont, and I reached out to Loudoun. I'm waiting to hear back from Loudoun, and they are on board. They want to see the event to come back.
Any other questions or comments on this presentation? Councilor Littman.
I just wanted to get a sense from Scott how, from an administrative procedure standpoint, how, a lot of the work that gets done to organize Motorcycle Week is not done by the council, but done by his team. So just curious how you would approach this.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councilor. We're excited. We think this would be a great thing. We wanted to not get too far ahead of ourselves yet until the council gave it some preliminary support to allow some detailed planning, but we certainly would want to, work with the merchants, work with the school to be able to use the middle school, the parks over there for the staging area when the bikes come back, where we set up the medical tent and the finish line and all of that stuff. But there's excitement about having another world-class event in the downtown, and I think this is a little simpler. It's 2 days, and it's basically, you think about it, it starts in Guilford and it runs down to Loudoun and back, and we've got one leg of it in the finishing line. So we know that the ceremonial stages and where the people are going to end up, mid-afternoon or whatever time they finish will be Laconia, and that's what we want, because now they're here for the event, they're here for the evening. So staff-wise is very confident that if we get a go-ahead and then we start getting into more details as to parking lots on the routes. I know Audra talked about trying to use the WOW Trail. There was talk about maybe even incorporating Shore Drive into the loop kind of thing, so you get some views of the lake as you're running in through that area, and really tie it into the downtown. Additionally, we have had conversations with Pete Lally at Spectacle and already kind of tentatively said, be thinking about this date, in August for the Colonial Theater, because potentially you're going to have thousands of people downtown. And we think the retailers downtown as well. Again, it's not an all-day event that shuts down the entire downtown, because swimming and then biking happen elsewhere. So the running course coming through the downtown would be toward the end and the finish line, but that's where crowds would gather. And we certainly hope that our retailers would want to participate and take advantage for that being kind of the finishing line shoot coming up Main Street.
Thank you. And thank you, Audra, too. It's good to see you
Thank
back.
Thank you.
Any further questions or thoughts on Audra's presentation tonight? So seeing none, I think it'd be premature to suggest a motion right now, only to the extent that I would like all the council members to have an opportunity to take a look at the presentation that Audra showed us this evening, and to go through it and let it sort of percolate for a while. And I'm sure you'll come up with additional questions. I would hope that maybe at the next city council meeting, we might be able to think about doing something formally to endorse this, endorsing it in the very broad context, because we know there are a lot of specifics and a lot of details that need to be worked out. But certainly I think it would send a great message that this is something exciting we can look forward to, and kind of go to work on everything that needs to be done, and hopefully have a sellout and a successful event here. So I would ask that as this goes along to you folks, that we all have an eye that maybe the next meeting will do something to see if we have consensus among us. Thank you, Audra. Greatly appreciate it. Thanks for sending that information out. Look forward to having further conversation soon.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a great night and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Bye.
So we'll move along to number 15, which is the mayor's report. I just want to really just mention two things, and Charlie has mentioned them already, one of them anyhow. Certainly Christmas morning was particularly sad when it comes to the Laconia Motorcycle Week Association and the fire that occurred on Union Avenue. But I will say this, it's always extraordinary to not only watch the professional men and women of the fire department as well as the police department to go about their work, but to think about what was done on Christmas morning at about 10 o'clock in the morning, to see these men and women out there doing their job, successfully taking someone out of the structure who did not need to be hospitalized. It's remarkable to see them go to work in the professionalism that they have. And also it's remarkable to see our police chief there first thing on a Christmas morning, to see the police chief of Guilford there with his firefighters working. And also see how mutual aid has worked particularly well also, in that there were other communities sending crews to back up the weirs, for instance, so we could make sure to cover for each other. It was an extraordinary loss, so we'll take a lot of work to get beyond it. But it is great to know that we've got such a professional and high quality and talented police department, fire department, working on behalf of the citizens of this city. Secondly is that last week we had a community discussion sponsored by Laconia Daily Sun, Senator French and myself, to talk about some of the things that have transpired in our community over the past month or so. And, it was inspiring that sometimes in these most difficult of situations that so many people from our community show up and are willing to participate in a conversation. And at one point there, we were, I believe, over 80 participants on a December 23rd between 5 and 6:30 p.m., which I found to be remarkable. It was also remarkable to hear members of our community in Laconia, people of color, speak up and talk about what their experience is like. And it's eye-opening. It can be somewhat uncomfortable, but it's really a testament to the people, to our city, and to the residents of our city, and the nature of the civil discussion that took place. we didn't all agree. There was a bit of debate, but I was certainly appreciative of not only the state representative Bordes, Representative Senator French, excuse me, but also Aaron Hayward from our school board, who would show up and speak and participate. So thank you to Laconia Daily Sun and everyone who participated in. I think even in these most difficult times, we can be very proud of our city. So that'll conclude my mayor's report. Going on to number 16, which is the committee reports. Are we looking for any committee reports this evening? Seeing none, do we have any liaison reports? Seeing no requests to speak in regards to liaison reports, we'll move to number 18. This is citizens' request to comment on current agenda items. So if the citizens watching, attending virtually, would like to speak to a matter on tonight's agenda, now would be the appropriate time. And I'll wait to be cued from you, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Mayor, nobody has raised their hand.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I appreciate it. Moving along to number 19, which is the city manager's report, and I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So included in your packet tonight are two reports. I'm first going to start with a recap of that little thing we called a snowstorm a couple of Thursdays ago. If you recall, early on in the forecasting, it was going to only affect Concord on South, and then as a day or two out came, okay, we were going to get 2 to 4, and then it was 4 to 8, and then it was 8 to 12 was, I think, the highest prediction. Well, 12 turned into 35 plus, and we I guess we didn't quite get the jackpot of Claremont and maybe a couple other locales, but we were definitely miscongeniality in the snow department, if you will. So great job by our public works crew. You know, that was a storm that if you think about it coming down 2 to 3 inches an hour, and they've got a route that might take them 3 or 4 hours to do a full circle, by the time they get back to where they started, you might have 8 or 10 inches on the ground again. And it's like you're starting, you know, from square one. And then obviously you run into the situation of no place to put the snow. We had so much of it. They, you know, worked not only all day Thursday, Friday, they were back out on Saturday, and then did the Monday overnight of clearing Main Street, Pleasant Street, and Beacon East and West, and had that snow basically in most key areas out of here on Tuesday morning as the workday started. And that was no small feat. It was significant. If we'd only known just to wait one more week and we could wipe out 38 inches of snow in one rainfall, maybe we would have approached it differently. But just, you know, when we talk about, you know, the services that the city provides in our crews across all departments, just another example of some great work there. So project updates report is in your packet. We're kind of in the lean planning time of year, so not a whole lot to report on. An update on the Pearly Pond project. We did have finally get an approval for a permit to do some work there. We had our expert from Risfrost Shumway attend the Conservation Commission meeting, Councilor Cheney, who had kind of spearheaded this discussion and what can we do with the pond, attended. I was there. Really just to try to get the Conservation Commission to listen to the approach and be able to partner with us as to what we would do for a final project if we get there, what replacement plantings will look like, what the vistas of the pond should look like. You know, in today's world, we know a lot more about the cycles and the ecology and how ponds go through different lifespans and life cycles, if you will. So while you may have in the past, you know, clear cut down to the ponds and had the grass growing at 2 inches, there's different thoughts these days on how appropriate native plantings can come in and help with the silt and help the ponds from refilling in. So we're certainly pleased that there seemed to be general support and desire to help on the part of the Conservation Commission as we look to move forward there. And the other item, the other report we have for you is your monthly economic development report. The unemployment numbers you can see had dropped significantly from the September rate of almost 7% down to a little over 4% in Laconia, and the ranges for the county, the state, Concord, and Manchester we're roughly in that 3.5% to 4.5% unemployment rate, which is significant difference if you think back into the April and May timeframe. So New Hampshire continues to be resilient and rebound. We are 11 months through the year as far as our inflation numbers now. So November came in at 1.2%. Annualized to date for inflation is 1.22. That is one of the components in our tax cap calculation as to the allowable amount to increase spending through increase in property taxes. So unless something truly significant, which isn't on the horizon, since we're already through the bulk of December, were to materialize, we're 11 months into the book, if you will. So the inflation number is going to, either hover at the 1.2 or possibly tip up to the 1.3, but I'm not believing that'll happen. So it's a good thing we've seen good growth in the building permit reports, which I reported on at our last meeting. So I will stop there. I know we've got some additional business to take care of tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Councilor Susie, go ahead.
Different subject, Scott, but on the same area, and it leads to the tax cap number and all that. Lately, I've been reading that the county's budget is going to be approved here shortly, and the overall thing that I see is the fact that their revenues are down 12%, but their spending has increased, by 4%. So that's a sway of 16%, and they're going to be asking us to fund that. Or we pay probably 20 or 30% of the overall county budget. And I'm really concerned about that because that's going to have a definite effect upon what we can do as a city. And I'd like to see somebody from the county representation and maybe this is not done or whatever, come and talk to us about what are they going to do to control their spending? Because we can't just turn around and say, okay, you're saying maybe a 1.2, 1.3% rise. And in these times of COVID, I'm not even sure that I can support that with so many people that have suffered a lot this past year and probably going to go into next year until things start getting straightened out. We just can't, the landlords or the elderly, they're only getting a 1.3% increase in their Social Security, and their Medicare costs went up. So when you boil it all down, there's no money left. And I get really concerned when I see the county doing this, and we're supposed to just say, okay.
So I'm happy to reach out to the county administrator, Deb Shackett. As we've had a new legislative delegation that just was seated, so I know they've been involved in the initial budget presentation. There's also a new county commissioner seated now. So this, if you will, was the budget of the 3-member commission, and now at least one, not at least one member has changed on that. So I'm happy to reach out to see if there's an interest in presenting. In past years, for the most part, there's been at least one member of the Laconia delegation who had always reached out to me and said, what's your tax cap looking like, this year? Because again, the county year starts on January 1st for the budget, where our budget runs on the fiscal year July 1. And typically it's a blend of what the inflation number is, which I just shared with you is most likely going to be 1.2%. And then the value of the new construction coming online. And I don't have that number in front of me, but I believe when I said at the last meeting, it was 25, 26, 27 million, somewhere around there. So we calculate that. And when you blend in those two pieces, I've typically been able to share with a representative that, when you put those two components together, it means about maybe a 2.5 to a 3% increase in spending. Not all of that is passed on to the taxpayers because of the new construction value that's coming online. So they've kind of tried to use that in their thinking a little bit. I agree with you. The 12% proposed increase, for those of you who are newer on the council, when I present the final budget to you, it's one budget. And if the county budget exceeds, let me back up. The county is not bound by our tax cap. Whatever number they include, I need to include in our budget. And for most of my years here, the county has, quote unquote, not hurt us in terms of overspending, meaning I had to make reductions on the city side in order to fit their budget in. That would flip this year if that number that they're talking about holds true. They will in essence have exceeded what's allowed for them under the tax cap if they were subject to it, meaning that reductions would have to be made on the city side of the budget in order to come to you with a tax compliant budget, which is what I'm charged with. So I'm happy to reach out and see if we can't arrange for one or a commission in its whole to get on a Zoom meeting with us and be able to discuss a little bit the reasons on why that happened. I do know there was one public hearing scheduled, which I think they opened and closed and then rescheduled it when there was a Zoom opportunity for the public to weigh in, because I think the first organizational meeting, if I recall correctly, there wasn't a Zoom option. It was in person only. And I think some people spoke up and said, no, we'd really like a Zoom. And to their credit, the delegation scheduled a second public hearing. I'm not sure how much they've delved into it yet and had work sessions on it, but they've still got some work ahead of them. So we need to monitor it and we need to share our opinions, but I'm happy to see if we can arrange for someone.
Thank you, because I just can't sit here and just say, okay, we'll accept whatever they want to do.
Yeah, and we're about
not this year. Not with the
we're
way
about,
things are out there for other citizens. I just can't see it.
Sure, and I think we're about 19.5% of the overall county budget, and that number usually changes by 2 or 3 tenths every year as updates to assessed valuation occur across the county. But a touch under 20% is where we are of the overall county budget.
Still too much. Thank you.
Counselor Felch.
Yeah, as far as the county budget, I've already reached out to all of our representatives, and I recommend the citizens of Laconia do the same. Representatives that I did speak to agree that that's too high and are going to try to work on it. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor Felch. So thank you very much, Scott. We'll move on to council comments. And I apologize. I'd like to move this to item number 16 on our agenda going forward. So if we could just maybe make a note of that, Scott, and maybe Cheryl going forward. I forgot about it and only realized it when I saw it at 22. So that would be great. But anyway, councilor comments. Seeing none. What I would like to do right now is to, pursuant to RSA 91A, move into a non-public session. I will let the public know that when we return from non-public session, there'll be no further public action or announcements. The only thing we'll be doing is making a motion and a vote to seal the minutes and then adjourning the meeting for the evening. So there'll be no other public action or announcements at that time. So I would like, does this require a motion right now, Scott, and a vote to go into non-public?
It does, and you'd be going in under RSA 91-A:3, Roman 2, small letter D, consideration of the acquisition of lease of real or personal property.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Be looking for a motion right now. So made by Councilor Felch, seconded by Councilor Susie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, and then after the roll, there is another link for a Zoom meeting that you should have all received, and we'll meet in that room.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think we'd like to announce as well that we will be, once we convene the non-public, we will be recessing that for the purposes of going into a non-meeting, and under RSA 91A in state law, non-meetings can occur for a couple of reasons. This would be for consultation with legal counsel.
Thank you very much for the clarification. Yes, absolutely.
Miles, set to take the roll?
I believe you are.
Okay. Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes,
Counselor Littman,
Yes,
Counselor Haynes,
Yes,
Counselor Hamel,
Yes,
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
That's 6 votes in the affirmative. The motion passes and we'll move into the non-public portion of our meeting.
Okay, so everyone is going to leave this meeting and go to the new link and come in under the new link for the non-public.
Andrew, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
If we're gonna have another meeting on Monday, does that have to get published in like the Sun or something like that?
I don't think it needs, I'm not sure if it needs to go in the Sun, but it does need to be published. Yeah, it needs to be noticed properly.
I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, that's all. I'm just trying to learn which way.
Yeah,
it's
no,
supposed
you're
to go.
absolutely right. Yeah. It does need to be, yes.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll do the public note posting. Really, the only and that's a statutory requirement in New Hampshire law. The only thing the public is really going to see is calling the meeting to order, giving out the Zoom information, taking the roll, and then we're going to have a motion to go in non-public. So if it was something that we were seeking input from the public on what to do with these buildings, then we certainly would want to get a news story out or get it advertised. But this is purely technical, and we're going to be doing 99% of our stuff in a non-public session.
All right, so we're back into the public session now. I'll be looking for a motion to seal the minutes from the non-public session for 6 months. That's acceptable. Who'd make that motion? Councilor Littman, thank you. Second. Councilor Susie, thank you. Any further discussion on that? We have to call the roll on this, yes?
Yes. Councilor Cheney?
You mute, Bruce.
We'll get back to you, Councilor Cheney. Councilor Susie?
Yes.
Councilor Lippman?
Yes.
Councilor Haynes?
Yes.
Councilor Hamel?
Yes.
Councilor
Give us a thumbs
Felch?
up, Bruce.
Give me a
Yes.
give me a thumbs up, Bruce. Yes, there's an emphatic yes. You got 6.
6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. All right,
Jack, you
so,
pointed to the bottom of the screen, Bruce.
so at the 9:28 p.m., I would move that the city council meeting of December 28, 2020 is adjourned.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor